Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be reviewing the JA37DI F21 Viggen, or as I'll likely be calling it throughout the video, either the Viggen, the DI, or the F21. This is a currently 13.0 BR Rank 8 premium fighter in the Swedish Air Force's tech tree. The pack that it comes in currently costs $79.99 USD when not on sale, and comes with 3,000 Golden Eagles and 30 days of premium time. With that said, in this video, I'll be going over everything that you need to know about this Viggen variant, including its stats, how it plays. I'll go over its strengths and weaknesses, I'll give it some scores in several key areas, and then I'll give my final recommendation, and if I feel this vehicle is worth purchasing or not. With that said, if you like this kind of video, please consider subscribing, but without further ado, let's get into the review. Now to start, I'll place the stat card here on the side of the screen. Important things to note are its armament, its turn time, and its rate of climb. Now for how it plays. Well, if you want to buy your way into ARH missiles, otherwise known as Fox 3 or active radar homing missiles, then this is your ticket to do so. The DI is basically a Viggen with RB99 ARH missiles, of which themselves are basically AIM-120A AMRAAMs. That's pretty much all that turns this from a 12.0 BR aircraft to a 13.0 BR aircraft, the inclusion of better missiles. This of course means that the F-21 will now face much tougher enemies than it would if it didn't carry such missiles, and as such, it's fairly lacking. While the radar itself is okay, as are the RB99 missiles, the overall performance on this aircraft is subpar, making it so that you will be consistently outpaced by mostly all planes in any match that you're in. Further, you can only carry up to 6 missiles, which isn't terrible, but it's on the low end of average at this BR, especially considering the aircraft that will typically be in your matches, with only 4 of those 6 missiles that you can carry being AMRAAMs, but the other 2 being RB-74s, of which are basically AIM-9Ls, which are easily flared away. Because of these things, you'll likely be in the back of the Allied lines as the actual fighting starts. What I'd like to do is either stay low and stay in the rear of the Allied group, that way I don't get targeted as easily, and then lock onto enemies as they pick up with my TWS radar, to then fire my AMRAAMs at them, finishing them off with close range encounters with my AIM-9Ls. This typically gets maybe 1 or 2 kills per match. Either that, or I climb up to around 65 plus 100 meters, and lock onto enemies lower than me with my radar and of course my AMRAAMs, which tends to be a bit more successful than the stay low strategy that I just outlined, with 2 kills from that alone being typical, and on occasional additional kills from AIM-9Ls. In my experience, the flying high strategy also tends to be a little bit safer, as I don't get locked onto nearly as much when I'm at altitude as when I'm near the ground. This is possibly due to the subpar rate of climb putting me far behind where my allies will typically be by the time that I reach a good altitude and I'm close enough to lock on and shoot at enemies. Regardless, the F-21 is essentially a platform for AMRAAMs and nothing more, as the AIM-9Ls aren't all too amazing at this BR. Now for close air support, well, you really shouldn't be using the F-21 Viggen for CAS. This vehicle can only carry up to 24 M70 rockets, which are like slightly harder hitting but slower versions of Zunis. Aside from the standard 30mm cannon, that's all that it can use for CAS. It has no smart ordnance or even dumb bombs. Because of this, I would avoid using the F-21 in CAS at all costs unless you're desperate or need this aircraft for air cover and decide to equip it with the long-range AMRAAMs instead of the M70 unguided rockets. Now with that said, let's get into its strengths and weaknesses, and first for its strengths. This vehicle can carry up to 4 RB-99 active radar homing missiles, which are essentially license-built AIM-120A AMRAAMs. In a down tier, this can be a pretty big bonus. Second, this vehicle has 368 countermeasures in total, with 48 of them being more effective large countermeasures. Third, this vehicle is easily one of the most maneuverable aircraft at its BR. For its 4th strength, though it isn't exactly a low BR, the DI gains access to ARH missiles at a lower BR than most aircraft, and will sometimes be one of a few aircraft in a down tier with Fox 3s. 5th, this vehicle has an okay PS-46A radar that has decent range but a very wide scanning angle. Beyond this vehicle has ballistics computers for its unguided rockets, as well as radar-assisted gun sights, the latter of which will help tremendously considering that this aircraft currently lacks tracers in all of its ammo belt options. And finally, the F-21 features premium RP and SL bonuses. Now for its weaknesses. While not terrible, the DI can only carry up to 6 missiles at most, which is bordering on subpar at this BR, especially considering that if you load it up with 4 RB-99 missiles, you can only carry 2 RB-74 missiles, which which again are basically just AIM-9Ls, which are fairly outdated at this BR and are easily flared away. Second, while not awful, the overall flight performance is noticeably worse than many similar BR aircraft, including MiG-29s, F-16s, Su-27s, and more. Third, the single 30mm onboard cannon only has 150 rounds of ammunition and, at least as of current, totally lacks tracer shells in any of its ammo belt options. Fourth, this vehicle almost totally lacks CAS capability, with the ability to only carry unguided M70 rockets as secondary ordnance. There are no bombs or guided munitions of any types, which means that only up to 24 unguided rockets and strafing are the only ways that you can kill ground targets with the F21. Beyond this, when afterburning, fuel usage is extremely high, even compared to similar BR aircraft. And finally, this vehicle bleeds energy extremely quickly when turning, which is a big problem because, as I said before, its performance isn't good enough to be able to gain that speed back quickly enough, at least versus similar BR aircraft. Now with that said, let's get into how I score this vehicle, and first for dogfighting and RRB, I give it a 5 out of 10. As stated earlier, this vehicle is basically just a platform to fire AMRAAMs from. The plane itself has subpar performance, though of course excellent maneuverability, and can only carry up to 6 missiles in total, with the typical loadout being 4 AMRAAMs and 2 AIM-9Ls. Being that the AIM-9Ls are close range and will typically rely on you getting into an advantageous position behind an enemy aircraft without them noticing, they won't be the majority of your kills. This is in part due to the Viggen's performance at this BR just not being all that competitive, but also because the AIM-9Ls are easily flared away, and you only get 2 of them. The AMRAAMs paired with the PS-46A radar are fairly good, but aren't really a standout versus other aircraft that can use Fox 3s. In all, the F-21 is average in the fighter role at best, and might possibly be somewhere in the 4 out of 10 range at worst. Now with that said, for close air support, I give it a 1.5 out of 10. At this BR, the CAS capabilities of this aircraft are atrocious. It can only carry up to 24 unguided M70 rockets, which are essentially slower but slightly more powerful Zunis. That's it. It cannot carry any additional loadout versus ground, and unfortunately currently fires the M70 rockets 2 at a time, which makes ordnance conservation a chore. Further, the single 30mm cannon on this aircraft currently lacks tracers and only has 150 rounds in total, which makes it not only difficult to aim, but it also gives you a very short firing window before you run out of ammunition. Unless you're in some kind of pinch, this vehicle should never be used for close air support. You'd be better off equipping your air-to-air loadout to patrol the skies while performing air cover, which is a task that is more efficiently performed with top-tier SPAA, as they cost several times fewer spawn points than the DI. In short, at this BR, the DI is likely the least capable aircraft for CAS in War Thunder. Now overall, I give it a 4 out of 10. As you can tell by my overall score, I'm weighing its dogfighting role very heavily compared to its CAS role. This is because it was clearly never intended for CAS, but I must still take its abysmal performance in that sector into account. Regardless, at its current BR, the F-21 is just mediocre. It can carry capable missiles, but the AMRAAMs aren't anywhere near the best Fox 3s, and the AIM-9Ls feel outdated at this BR. Mix this with subpar performance, and you get a plane that looks great, but doesn't play as well as you might want. If you saw a BR decrease for whatever reason, or some BR decompression, the latter of which I feel is extremely possible, especially as we continue to get more advanced aircraft in War Thunder, then I can see the capabilities of this aircraft begin to shine, with a possible 6 out of 10 overall in dogfighting if this were to happen. It just so happens that, at least currently, this plane is bogged down by the other planes that it competes with and against on your team and on the enemy team. Because of that, it just feels middling at best and very generic in air battles, and quite honestly, feels like Gaijin decided to slap some AMRAAMs onto a player favorite airframe to sell for about $80 USD and call it a day. Now with that said, do I recommend the JA37DI F21 Viggen for purchase? No, I do not. At least not currently. Not only is this easily among the least noob-friendly vehicles in the entire game, largely due to its BR and somewhat complicated air-to-air setup relative to what new players are likely to be used to, but this is also one of the most generic feeling planes that I could imagine at this BR. As stated earlier, it just feels like they put Fox 3s on a Viggen in order to sell it at a very high price, which just doesn't cut it at its current current BR. Again, if it dropped to 12.7 BR, or better yet, if BRs were decompressed by a bit, then I could see this vehicle being more competitive. For now though, it just feels like a crapshoot insofar as successes are concerned with the F21. Mix in the current $79.99 USD price tag, and you have a plane that I cannot honestly recommend for purchase. Perhaps if it went on sale for 50% off, or greater, sure, but that's about all I can give insofar as any recommendation is concerned. Again, if we see this vehicle sit in a better situation with its BR in the future, then that might be all that it needs to be fairly good, but for now, it just feels bland, generic, and like a cash grab. Oh, and of course, I do not give the F21 my Tankenstein seal of approval. This plane is a really cool concept in game, but the F21 is just not very good in War Thunder. Again, not currently. Now with that said, thank you all so much for watching. If you don't mind, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel, as both help me out tremendously. Additionally, let me know what you guys think about the F21 Viggen in the comments below, as well as what you think of my review. Either way, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.